let's dive into a management idea from the one and only W. Edwards Deming that completely flips a common business practice on its head. Now, I gotta warn you, it might sound totally counterintuitive at first, but if you stick with me, you'll see it's a genuine game changer. So think about it in your own job. At the end of a production line, there's always that quality check, right? Or at the end of a big project, a manager has to review the final report. It feels like the responsible thing to do. It feels like we're making things safer, making things better by adding all these controls and checks. But is that really what's happening? And boom, here's where it gets really interesting. This idea is the core of what we're digging into. The more you control, the less quality you have. It seems completely backward, doesn't it? I mean, my first reaction is no way, that can't be right. But what Deming was arguing is that this isn't just some clever little phrase. It is a fundamental truth about how great things are actually made. So, to really wrap our heads around this paradox, let's first break down why our instinct to just add more and more checks, that whole inspection process, is often just, well, an illusion of control. From a manager's seat, it feels right. You think I'm catching mistakes, I'm holding up our standards. But what's really happening? You're actually running this expensive and honestly pretty demoralizing system that does one thing. It documents failure after the damage is already done. And that leads us right to the most critical distinction in this whole conversation, the massive difference between simply finding a mistake versus actually preventing it from ever happening in the first place. I mean, this chart just lays it out perfectly. Inspection is all about discovering. It's 100% reactive. The mistake has already happened. The part was built wrong. All you're doing at that point is finding the body. Prevention, on the other hand, is completely proactive. It's about engineering success right into the system from the get-go. And let's talk about the cost for a second. By the time an error gets to an inspector, 100% of the cost to make that mistake, the time, the materials, even that hit to your team's morale, is already spent. It's gone. It's a sunk cost. Inspection doesn't save you that cost. It just officially confirms that it was wasted. Okay, so if endlessly checking our work at the end isn't the answer, then what is? Let's get into Deming's powerful solution for achieving real honest-to-goodness, sustainable quality. He called it built-in quality. And the idea is so simple, but it's absolutely revolutionary. Quality isn't something you inspect for at the end of the line. It's something you build into every single step of the process, right from the very beginning. So how do you actually make this happen? Well, it really just boils down to these three things. First, you've got to build a great process, one that's clear, simple, and actually designed to succeed. Second, you train your people, and not just on what to do, but why it's done that way. And third, and this one is absolutely key, you give them feedback in real time, not a week later in some report. Think of it like a pilot's dashboard giving constant updates, not an accident investigation report after the crash. That's how you get instant course correction and real on-the-job learning. Okay, so let's really dig into why this shift in thinking is so critical. We're going to look at the true and often very hidden costs of a system that's just built on inspection and control. This quote just reframes the entire issue, doesn't it? Every single time you have to rely on an inspection to catch a mistake, it's not a sign of how diligent you are. It's a quiet admission that your system has already failed your team. You're basically planning for failure instead of engineering for success. And the costs of that failure? They are staggering. Financially, it's pretty obvious. You've got wasted materials, rework, delays. In terms of productivity, every minute someone spends inspecting is a minute they could have been creating actual value. But the impact on morale, that might be the most damaging of all. It creates this culture of distrust, of blame, where people feel like they're being policed, not empowered to do their absolute best work. All right, so that's the big idea. But the best ideas are the ones we can actually put to work. So how can you start doing this, like, tomorrow? Let's talk about a really concrete first step. Look, don't try to change your entire company overnight. That's not going to work. Just pick one process, one workflow, one little task where you know your team consistently finds mistakes. It can be something small. That's your starting point. Now, get your team together. But instead of asking how to improve the inspection, or even worse, asking who messed up, you ask this one single, powerful question. This question alone can shift the entire conversation away from blame and get everyone focused on building a better system together. So here's the bottom line. Your job as a leader isn't to be the chief inspector. It's to be the chief architect of a better system. Your focus should be on improving the process that your people work in every single day and constantly asking, how can I help this process succeed? The moment you start seeing your team as partners in quality, not as subjects to be controlled, that's the moment you stop just finding failure and start actually building success.